soldier, not a sorrowful nose. Oh, by tomorrow you're gone. The song is ended, but as the songwriter rose, the melody lingers on. They may take you from me, I'll miss your fond caress, but though they take you from me, I'll still possess the way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, no, they can't take that away from me. The way your smile just beams, the way we sing of you, the way you haunt my dreams. No, no, they can't take that away from me. We may never, never meet again on the bumpy road to love. Still I'll always, always keep that memory of the way you hold your knife, the way we dance till 3, the way you've changed my life. No, no, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away from me.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this evening of celebration of the life of Dame Agatha Christie. Tonight we are going to present to you her life in words and music.
Oh, how thrilling! Is it going to be an actual musical?
How do you mean?
Well, you know, with girls with big fans, leaping out of cakes, all covered in sequins, etc. All that sort of thing. You know, set in the 20s. Tap dancing guaros and, handsome men in dinner jackets. Oh, I say.
Not quite, but we do promise songs from the time in which our story unfolds. It's a celebration, so every word that Agatha utters tonight, without exception, is taken from her very own autobiography. Nothing has been made up when it comes to Agatha. The readings will be from her very own pen.
Well, okay, perhaps I haven't read them all. I love the ones set in exotic places.
It's an achievement because she wrote over 80 novels.
Oh, 80? Oh, you can't be hit, they haven't read them all. I love the ones set in exotic places. Like Evil Under the Sun, Murder in Mesopotamia, Death on the Nile. All with the exotic characters and such, yeah.
Oh, plenty of those. I've read a fair old few myself. Certainly all the 37 Poirot novels that she wrote.
And I've read the 20 short stories and the 12 novels that feature Miss Marple. Oh, she's my favourite.
But she also wrote 5 radio plays, 15 stage plays, 3 collections of children's stories and poetries, 6 romantic novels, and 2 autobiographies.
Sounds exhausting.
In fact, she's the only author to be outsold by the Bible and Shakespeare. Agatha Mary Clarissa Miller, born here in Torquay on the 15th of September in 1890, just up the road at Ashfield, a large, substantial Victorian villa and the family home.
Wait, the 15th of September, you say? Oh my gosh, that's so brilliant. So, that's today, isn't it? That's today. So today is a birthday celebration as well, isn't it? Oh, good. So, right, then we'll make her, let me see now. So, 1890. Oh, I'm just so rubbish at mathematics, forget about it.
133, my dear.
Oh,
Not only that, her sister Madge and her brother Monty, who were both a decade older than her, brought her to this very theatre every week of her childhood. It was here Agatha developed her love of theatre, and that became a lifelong passion. She would sit through opera, melodrama, musical plays, and variety shows.
I said, I'm frightfully thrilled. At this very theatre, who would have thought?
Yes, that's why we're celebrating her life here today.
Agatha's childhood was a remarkably happy one. She was devoted to both her parents, who themselves were devoted to each other. She was brought up in a relatively wealthy household with servants and a nanny. Her autobiography reflects an almost idyllic childhood.
Although both her siblings received a formal education, Agatha's mother decided that she should not.
My mother sent my sister to boarding school, but was now entirely convinced that the only way to bring up girls was to let them run wild as possible, to give them good food, fresh air, and not to force their minds in any way. None of this was true for boys, of course. Boys were to have a strictly conventional education, which I thought so unfair.
However, by the age of 5, Agatha, with Mercy, had already taught herself to read and began to literally devour everything she could get her hands on.
Taught herself to read by the time she was 5? Why, that's amazing, isn't it?
In the
I came across a French play, which my father discovered me reading. "Where did you get hold of that?" he said, picking it up, horrified.
It was one of a series of French plays and novels which he usually kept locked away in the smoking room for the perusal of adults only. "It was in the schoolroom," I said. "Shouldn't have been there," said father. "Should have been in my cupboard." I relinquished it cheerfully enough. Truth to tell, I had found it somewhat difficult to understand. I returned happily to reading Alice in Wonderland.
The rest of her education was through a mixture of part-time school visits and a French finishing school. Agatha was a fine singer and a very accomplished pianist, writing and composing her own works. In fact, had she not been so shy, she could easily have made a career as a concert pianist.
My mother appeared in the schoolroom one day with Fraulein Uda in tow, explaining she wanted Agatha to start learning the piano.
I don't know why she was teaching in Torquay, but I loved those lessons enormously. And before long, the house resounded with scales, arpeggios, and in due course, the strains of the Merry Peasant. As I progressed, I added Traumerei and other of Schumann's delicate little tunes. I practiced with zeal every day for an hour or two. From Schumann, I proceeded to Grieg, which I loved passionately. When I was finally able to play Peer Morgan, I was transported with delight.
At school in Paris, she studied piano seriously and was told by the Conservatoire's leading music teacher that indeed she was good enough to make a career as a concert pianist.
Girls of that social status at that time were supposed to marry well, not have a career. Marry well was indeed what her mother most wanted.
The family's circumstances had changed dramatically in 1901 when Agatha's father died. A tragedy that had been brought on by the financial collapse of the family business. Agatha was only 11 at the time, and she became even closer to her mother.
Clara, now worried about money and having to cope with a young daughter on her own, became increasingly restless and began to travel with Agatha. These early trips influenced Agatha's lifelong love for travel. In 1912, Agatha was 22. She met and fell in love with the man she was to marry, Archie Christie. He was frightfully good-looking, an aviator, and had just applied to join the Royal Flying Corps. With the dark clouds gathering over Europe at the start of the First World War, like many couples, the decision to marry was a difficult decision to make, when separation and possible loss of your husband will mark the start of many marriages embarked upon at this time.
I've changed my mind. We've got to get married at once. We will marry tomorrow.
But you said...
Never matter what I said. You were right and I was wrong. Of course, it's the only sensible thing to do.
But...
We'll have 2 days together before I go back to France.
But you were so certain.
What does it matter? I've changed my mind.
Yes. But it's going to be so difficult. It had seemed to Archie absolute folly to be getting married in the middle of wartime. Now, a day later, he was equally determined that it was the only right thing for us to do. But I don't see how we can get married so suddenly. It's so difficult.
Yes, we can. We can get a special license or something.
Isn't that terribly expensive?
Yes, I believe it is rather. But I expect we'll manage. Anyway, we've got to. No time for anything else. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve. So that's all right?
The next day, a great many of the things I had foreseen came true. My son should do this to me. Archie's mother was inconsolable. The licence cost £8. We could manage £8. After that, it was a wild rush. We hunted down a vicar. And then we hurried to the church. Only to find we needed a second witness. I came across a friend I knew, Yvonne Bush. Although startled, she agreed to be our impromptu bridesmaid and our second witness. Just as the ceremony was about to start, I thought for one sad moment how no bride could have taken less trouble over her appearance. No white dress, no veil, not even a smart frock. I was wearing an ordinary skirt and coat and a small purple velvet hat. I hadn't even had time to wash my hands and face. The ceremony was duly performed. We decided to go down to Torquay, spend Christmas there, stay at the Grand Hotel and be with my mother. The next day, I travelled with Archie to London, said goodbye to him as he went back to Paris again. I was not to see him for another 6 months of the war.
There's a silver
With her husband away at war, Agatha volunteered as a VAD, a voluntary aid detachment nurse with the Red Cross, and worked in the town hall nursing soldiers who had come back injured from the front.
She started working in the dispensary, where she enjoyed the work immensely and completed the examination of the Society of Apothecaries.
At this time, she also started writing and was challenged by her sister to write a detective novel. From a small girl, she had always written poems and short stories, but taking up the challenge and encouraged by her mother, she took herself off to the Moorland Hotel in Dartmoor to really concentrate on writing her first novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles.
His first book featured what would become the most famous detective, Hercule Poirot. Torquay had many Belgian refugees at that time, and one such refugee formed the basis of our most enduring character. The little immaculate detective, with his egg-shaped head and his legendary moustache, would ultimately appear in 37 of her novels, exercising his little apparatus.
It took 6 rejection letters and several years of perseverance to get The Mysterious Affair at Styles published.
When her first book was published, it was very well received by several printed newspapers. But perhaps the review that Agatha was most pleased about was the review she received from the Pharmaceutical Journal, which congratulated her on her authentic and knowledgeable use of poison as a murder weapon. Poison was to feature regularly in many of her books, and the original, varied and imaginative way she wove her knowledge into these novels was drawn from her time working with a pharmacy in Torquay and then later as an apothecary's assistant.
Poison is such a great way to dispatch an unwanted relative, don't you think?
Rupert, I'm not sure what you mean.
Yes, you do. Let's not all be so cold. That annoying maiden aunt who never wants to play charades at Christmas. A seed or two of laburnum mixed into her Christmas cake would help quicken her demise off this mortal coil.
Rupert, I'm shocked.
No, you're not. Well, that battle axe of a minted uncle who clearly has more money than sense. He'd probably enjoy a nice glass of sparkling cyanide. We've all thought it.
Rupert, that's enough.
That despicable teacher, I have several, who would probably thank you for bringing his teaching career to an end. A dash of morphine hydrochloride dropped into his Horlicks before bedtime will surely do the trick. Oh, Mom, don't look at me like that. It's a delicious thought we've all had. You know we have. Anyway, I'd never do it. Would I? I mean, maybe squirrels or pigeons. Oh yes, great fun. It's just a bit of fun. After all, they are vermin, don't you know?
Spring is here, spring is here. Life is skittles, life is beer. I think the loveliest time of the year is the spring. I do, don't you? Of course you do.
gains notoriety and cause much anxiety in the old world society with our gains. They call it impiety and lack of propriety and quite a variety of unpleasant names. But it's not against any religion who want to dispose of a pigeon. So if someday you're free, won't you come with me and we'll poison the pigeons in the park? And maybe we'll do a squirrel or two while we poison the pigeons in the park. We'll murder them all amid laughter and merriment, except for the few we take home to experiment. My pulse starts quickening with each drop of strychnine that I feed to a pigeon. It just takes a pigeon to poison a pigeon in the park.
When the mysterious affair of Styles was first accepted for publication, there was one big change the publisher requested that would almost certainly going to define what would become the archetypal Christian.
The court scene at the end, the publisher specifically asked to be changed to the drawing room of the big country house, where all the suspects would be gathered for the denouement. Poirot's little grey cells would reveal in front of the assembled company of potential suspects who the murderer was and how it had been achieved.
Indeed, the closed room became a feature of many of her early novels. A group of unsuspecting characters gathered at a country house, cut off from the outside world.
Terrible weather, or stuck on an island, on a train, on a boat. It was a feature that worked particularly well.
Many of her earlier novels were set in big country houses, as Agatha herself, as a young woman, had often been invited to many society house parties in the country. Debutantes looking for wealthy husbands, duchesses lining up suitable gals for their richmond. A weekend in the country was definitely the place to be.
So long as you know
spring of 1926, to the world, Agatha's life seemed perfect. She was a successful published author, with her 8th novel, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, just published. Incidentally, this book is considered to be her masterpiece, and cemented her name as Queen of Crime. She was seemingly happily married to a dashing, handsome colonel with a young daughter, but by December of that year, something happened that would change all this for good.
Mother, have you seen this? Front page of the Daily Mail. Agatha Christie has gone missing.
What? The detective writer?
Yes, dear, I have. It's on the front page of all the papers. The police have found her car crashed in Surrey, nearly hanging over a cliff edge, with the headlights still on. Her fur coat and her driving licence and her dressing case still in the car.
What, the Agatha Christie?
Yes, completely vanished. No trace of her at all.
Oh, that's terrible. Has she been kidnapped or something?
The police know nothing yet. They're mounting a massive search for her, which is presumed to be all of the papers are covering it.
Oh, I do hope she's all right.
As the days progressed, every day search grew. Police dragged the lake, silent pool, which had been the location nearby of several suicides. Speculation grew as to what had happened. A record number of volunteers joined the search.
Tommy, have you read the latest? Look, search for famous novelist intensifies. They're using bloodhounds and aeroplanes now. Look at the title.
Well, read this. Apparently, Arthur Conan Doyle, him or Sherlock Holmes' fate, is joining the efforts to find her. He's quite a psychic to contact every one of her gloves.
Oh, really? That's just sensationalism. Oh, it's to sell the papers. I can't stand it. I feel so sorry for her. I was reading that back in April she lost her mother, and some of the papers have been saying that her husband had been having an affair with someone at his golf club.
Ooh. Well, there's a comment here saying she faked it as a publicity stunt to sell more books.
Oh, that's just cruel.
There are comments even in Parliament about how much a search for her has cost.
After 11 days of speculation and scandal, Agatha Christie was found at the Hydropathic Hotel
in Harrogate. 2 members of the hotel's dance band had recognised her and tipped off the police. She had seemingly checked in to the hotel under the name of Theresa Neal, same surname as Nancy Neal, her friend at the golf club who had in fact become her husband's lover. Archie Christie arrived by train with a flurry of journalists in tow to collect his wife. He then made a statement to the press, advising them that his wife had suffered from amnesia and could not remember a single thing.
Colonel says wife has lost her memory. Yes, she can't remember a thing. Amnesia. I think that's ridiculous. You sign up to a hotel in your husband's lover's name, dress up, go to dinner, take regular therapeutic baths at the famous hot Turkish spa, and say you can't remember a thing. I don't believe it. No, I don't. I think it sounds like one of twist from one of her novels or something. I think it's most cleverly thought out publicity stunt. And look at this picture. She leaves the hotel looking perfectly normal.
Well, I think you are being perfectly cruel. If all these things are true, I feel frightfully. Then I feel very sorry for her, frightfully sorry. In fact, I've heard that she might have had a breakdown.
But I think her husband is a proper cad. Absolute bounder.
Agatha's beloved mother Clara had died in April 1926. In the August of that year, she was staying at Ashfield, sorting through her mother's things, when Archie arrived from London to announce that he was leaving her and he wanted a divorce. Nancy Neal was 9 years younger and had been Agatha's friend. In the August before her disappearance, newspaper gossip columnists had hinted that she was having an affair. She was having a breakdown. And in the weeks before she disappeared, Agatha had written to her brother-in-law saying that she wanted to go and visit the spa up north, hoping that he would tell Archie.
Her book sold out during the 2-week period of her disappearance, and her name was catapulted to celebrity status in a way Agatha was never really comfortable with.
The following year, she gave an exclusive interview to the Daily Mail. In her own words, she explained how the death of her mother, the pressure and writer's block whilst writing The Blue Train, the novel she was working on during this dark time, and the failure of her marriage had led to her having amnesia. And she admitted in the article that at times she had wanted to end it all.
Many commentators agree now that this sad episode in her life, the trauma of 1926, did in fact equip her and give her the experiences that turned her into the great author she became known as.
Her fans and readers kept with her at this time. And although she was going through a difficult time, sales of her books rocketed, including The Blue Train, the book she describes as the worst detective novel she ever wrote.
The sun comes up, I think about you. The coffee cup, I think about you. I want you so, it's like I'm losing my mind. The morning ends, I think about you. I talk to friends and think about you. And do they know it's like I'm losing my mind? All afternoon doing every little chore. The thought of you stays bright. Sometimes I stand not going left, not going right. I dim the lights and think about you. Spend sleepless nights to think about you. You said you loved me. Oh, were you just being kind? Oh, am I losing my Sometimes I stand in the middle of the room, not going there, I dim the lights and think about you. Spend sleepless nights, think about you. You said you loved me. Oh, were you just being kind? Or am I losing my mind?
started to rebuild her life, and travel played a big part of her rehabilitation.
In 1930, she travelled to Baghdad for a second time. And when her divorce came through, she went to southern Iraq and joined an archaeological dig at Nimrod. There she met Max Mallerman, an archaeological assistant, 14 years her junior.
He was a Roman Catholic and she was an Anglican.
On a desert trip together, Agatha received news that her daughter Rosalind was very ill, and so Archie chose to accompany her back to England. When they arrived back in the UK, just 6 months after they met, Max proposed, and he and Agatha were married in the September of 1930. They'd known each other such a short time, and yet their marriage was to be a long and happy union, based on friendship, respect, and loving companionship, despite the difference in their years.
Max worked for many years on the dig at Nimrod, and so in the 30s and late 40s, the couple would spend at least a third of the year in Iraq. Agatha developed a real love of archaeology and the people of Iraq, and she would participate very much as part of the team.
The lure of the past came up to grab me. To see a dagger appearing before me in the sand, glinting, it was so romantic.
Her love of archaeology inspired many of her novels. Murder in Mesopotamia, They came from Baghdad, Appointment with Death, Death on the Nile, and Destination Unknown. But it was in Christie's only historical novel, Death Comes at the End, that she would truly step back in time. She was urged by her friend and Egyptologist, Stephen Glanville, to write an ancient detective story set in 2000 BC Egypt. And her first concern was authenticity.
I was continually ringing him up, demanding answers and information, which, as he said, only took me 3 minutes to ask for, but for which he had to look through at least 8 different books to find.
There was a lady of Egypt, I'm told. The bar she sat on was of burnished gold. Her moral code made the streets perspire. Her open scandal set the Nile on fire. They tried to make her marry her brother Ptolemy. She said, I won't tolerate Ptolemy to call me. I only sell to the highest bids. Now she's tossing up the pharaohs and the pyramids. Cleopatra held the key to every Hydra, but the secret of her Hydra was to keep her men at bay. She used to tease her, sugar daddy Julius Caesar, by not allowing him to squeeze her more than once or twice a day. For when this minx was up to her jigs, she recalled the words of that wise old sphinx. Never let men become too charming, or you're sure to end up as an Egyptian mummy. Cleopatra, Egypt danced to a mantra, so respectful as Tatra, her virtue almost seemed to cry. Through her warm beauty, but even luscious Nefertiti, she would reply to each entreaty. Try calling back another time. The world it rang from Rome to Rio, with the affair of Antony and Cleo. And soothsayers swore by the very next eyes he'd be making her the first of the GI brides. Now Tony's little kid wife Octavia didn't quite appreciate this behavior, but Cleo acted like she didn't care till she went and shoved an asp down her you-know-where. Cleopatra had 40 lovers and a Clara. Number 41 got smarter and tried to make her free. She smiled her smile and she gently pushed him in the Nile, and she whistled like a crocodile and said, "Poppy darling, here's your tea." Diana painted the whole town red. Her nylon's not the nylon the head, but the only thing that her men could wheedle was a nasty jab from Cleopatra's needle. Cleopatra tore every other heart harder. She was truly in the Capra when she went to Rome. Yes, that's the price, girls. This time is very sweet and nice, girls. But if you want a life advice, girls, leave Mr. Cupid well alone. Take my advice, girls, and never roll your dice, girls. But keep your paramours on ice, girls, and leave love alone.
In the 1880s and 90s, everything Japanese had captured the imagination of the Victorian intelligentsia. Now, in the 1920s and 30s, with the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, Egyptology came up and grabbed everyone's attention and worked its way into everything to do with popular culture.
Max and Agatha had become good friends with Howard Carter through their archaeological circle of friends, and they had travelled many times to Egypt over the years. In 1937, Agatha's novel, Death on the Nile, was published and became one of her most popular and enduring novels of all time, and captures beautifully the Egypt of the 1930s as it was opening up to mass tourism.
With the birth of silent movies, Rudolph Valentino was the big heartthrob of the day. His appearance in The Desert as the Sheikh was his most captivating and iconic role. A role which you can imagine had all the women swooning.
The desert of love. And they stand. Gosh, look how it stands. On the hot Egyptian sand. Shut up! And I blink at those blinding skies. For you, the sun in my eyes. For you, and turning yourself that you want. You see sand in my eyes. Oh, so beautiful, so unbelievable, and sweetheart, so beautiful. Oh, you see sand in my eyes. Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me, kiss me, hold me close to you. Thank you so much, darling. Oh, you got to see me, haven't you? Oh, that's gone out with his heads there. Oh, you can't have it. I love you all, Ricky. I'm here all weekend. Come and see me again, darling. Oh, Ricky, stay. Oh, darling. Beautiful, beautiful. Bye now. Bye, darling.
Not one at the bottom of the pile. No. Thank you. Right. Take it round to her. Yeah. And what seat number is 50?
Going to go 2 yellows.
The blue.
And the yeah, and the red. That's right. There you go. There you go, hon.
Is this my one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have the nearest one. Thank you.
23, 25.
Agatha Christie in the 1950s established herself as something of a celebrity within the glittering world of showbiz by famously writing 15 stage plays and 5 radio plays. Indeed, in the early 50s, she had 3 plays running simultaneously in the West End: Witness for the Prosecution, Spider's Web, and her most famous play, The Mousetrap, which is playing this very week at the Princess Theatre, just up the road, same time as our show.
Sorry, do they not know that we're presenting her life here at the very theatre she frequented and loved as a girl? Rude.
I share your sentiments, swiftly moving on. Although Agatha shied away from publicity, her passion and love for the theatre was there from a very early age. Indeed, her autobiography, she recalls her visits to this very theatre, the Royal Lyceum, with huge delight.
One of the great joys in life was the local theatre. We were all lovers of the theatre in our family. Madge and Monty went practically every week, and usually I was allowed to accompany them. As I grew older, this became more and more frequent. We sat in the pit stalls, always. The pit was supposed to be rough. The pit cost a shilling, and the pit stalls, which were 2 rows in front, behind about 10 rows of stalls, were where the Miller family sat, enjoying every kind of theatrical entertainment. I don't know if it was the first play I saw, but certainly amongst the first was Hearts Are Trumps, a roaring melodrama of the worst type. I remember those days with great delight.
Since her disappearance in 1926, she had made a point of shying away from publicity. However, she did have a number of celebrity friends within the world of showbiz. Sybil Thorndike lived in the same block of flats as Agatha and Max in London. They became great friends. She wrote the main part in Spider's Web for the actress Margaret Lockwood, who was another firm friend. Richard Attenborough and his wife appeared in the first ever cast of The Mousetrap, and the film adaptation of The Witness for the Prosecution, starring Marlene Dietrich, won the Best Picture at the Academy Awards in 1957. So her profile during this period was linked to many of the top stars of the day. In 1962, The Mousetrap had been running for 10 years in the West End, and so a party was held at the Savoy, London, in her honour. Agatha, in her memoirs, recalls this with both pride and suffering.
Sorry, love. You can't go in there yet. The event hasn't even started.
Why I couldn't say that I am Mrs. Christie and that I've been told to go in early for a press call, I don't know. Like a coward, I turn tail miserably and try and muster up the courage to go back and say, I am me. I got in eventually. I still have that feeling that I am pretending to be an author. Perhaps I'm a little like my 2-year-old grandson coming down the stairs and reassuring himself by saying, this is Matthew coming down the stairs. And so I come here and I say to myself, here is Agatha, pretending to be a successful author, going to her own large party and having to be something she's no good at.
Mrs. Christie, you've barely spoken to the press in 35 years.
When you don't do a thing well, it's more sensible not to attempt it, don't you think? I have a very strong feeling that it's not part of an author's life, but I've agreed to talk on this occasion to celebrate my play, The Mousetrap. But that is the only reason.
Agatha's disarming modesty was a feature of her personality and belied her extraordinary talent. The Mousetrap became, and still is, the longest running play in theatrical history. Agatha didn't think it was her best play. She gave it 8 months. How wrong she was. Commentators generally agree that although it is a superb piece of theatre and still the longest running play, Witness for the Prosecution was by far her finest play.
One of the most popular tricks in her writing, for both her books and the stage, was the invention of the hidden couple. People are not always what they seem in many of Agatha's novels, and the sweetest of characters turn out to be the villains of the piece, and the murderer, or murderers working together, are the last people you would expect.
She did this very successfully in A Murder is Announced, and also in Death on the Nile, where the murderer marries the victim, and his apparent jilted lover, who is in fact his real partner, stalks the newlyweds, and they collude to murder her for her money.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because you see, dear Stuart, I am not Dolores, and we are not married. You see, I am already married, and my name is Inga, and I am married to your gamekeeper, Rufus. What? Once that poison takes hold, I'm going to move Rufus into the big house, now that you've left it to me in your will. Sorry, Stuart.
No! This is a show about Agatha Christie. What? Oscar Wilde, although he appeared at this theatre. Did we ever tell you that? Yes, he did. Right here. Oscar will get his own show in due course.
Well, I have a confession to make as well. I'm not really Atticus.
What?
My real name is...
What? That's enough. Can we just get on with the show, or we'll be here all night? These hidden characters really get under your skin, don't they? I think the audience has got the point. I'll just sing the song.
I've got you under my skin. I've got you deep in the heart of me. So deep in my heart, you're really a part of me. I've got you under my skin. I tried so not to give in. I said to myself, this affair was never gonna go so well. But each time I try, well, baby, I know so well I've got you under my skin. I'd sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near, in spite of a warning voice that comes in the night and repeats, it repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you never can win. Use your mentality, wake up to reality. Cause each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin. Cause I've got you under my skin. I'd sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near, in spite of a warning voice that comes in the night and repeats, it repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you never can win. Use your mentality, wake up to reality. Time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin. Cause I've got you under my skin, and I love you under my skin.
Agatha's life flourished and marked the golden age of her writing. Her writing became prolific. Indeed, in 1934, she had 8 books published alone, and she averaged between 4 and 5 books published annually throughout the 30s and 40s. It was during this period that she wrote her most popular and best-selling novels, including Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, And Then There Were None, and the ABC Murders. What people liked about her writing was the jeopardy, the intrigue, the chance to try and work out who the murderer was. They were never horrific. They were never shocking. There was something almost cosy about her murders that was just thrilling enough without tipping into horror. A bit like the strains of Ella Fitzgerald's Miss Otis Regrets, which tells the story of how Miss Otis shot her victim down, but somehow the strains of a jazz band make it wholly acceptable after all that she's been through.
Miss Otis regrets she's unable to lunch today. Madam, Miss Otis regrets she's unable to lunch today. She is sorry to be delayed, but as evening down in Lover's Lane she stayed. Madam, Miss Otis regrets she's unable to lunch today. When she woke up and found that her dream of love was gone, madam, she ran to the man who had led her so far astray. And from under her velvet gown, she drew a gun and shot her lover down. Madam, Miss Otis regrets she's unable to lunch today. When the mob came and got her and dragged her from the jail, madam, she flung her upon the old willow across the way. And the moment before she died, she lifted up her lovely head and cried, Madam, Miss Otis regrets she's unable to lunch today.
With the start of the Second World War, Agatha continued to write prolifically, and her work was to influence
one of Waddington's best-loved board games. Holed up in his home in Birmingham during air raids on the city, Anthony Pratt, an English musician and factory worker, recalled the murder mystery games played by some of his clients at private music gigs in the big country houses. In 1944, Anthony applied for a patent of his invention of a murder mystery-themed game, originally entitled Murder. Shortly afterwards, he and his wife Elva, who had helped design the game, presented it to Waddington's chief executive, Norman Watson, who immediately purchased it and provided its trademark name of Cluedo.
Elva, are you coming through, my love?
Coming! I've got your Horlicks.
Thank you. Oh, not a bother going down to the shelter.
Oh no, what are the chances? It's your munitions factory they're after. That's what they're aiming at.
Quite so. Quite so. Hitler can shove his Luftwaffe up where the sun don't shine, as far as I'm concerned. For we have far more important things on our mind. Haven't we, my dear?
Yes, we have. Hopefully, this is going to make us rich. Now, I've drafted out a layout of the rooms whilst you were at work. And we'd already decided on some of the characters. So, we have the ballroom, the conservatory, and the kitchen.
Would the gentry be seen in the kitchen, and do you think that's plausible?
Oh, yes. The lady of the house would certainly go down to the kitchen and would say, Lord Toffee-News wants his quail eggs a little on the runny side. And his lordship would go down and he would give his butler a jolly good telling off for not ironing his paper well enough or not hanging up his shop pheasants in the proper way.
Yes, you're right. What about the guests? Would they go down there?
Yes. On these house parties, the guests would go down in the middle of the night and they would steal jellies and tartlets from the pantry, I imagine, after all that bed hopping.
Bed hopping?
Yes, bed hopping. Gosh, it's in all of Agatha's novels. Delicious infidelities. Lords cheating on their wives with flirtatious flappers. And ladies hopping into bed with exotic young military officers just back from the front. Otherwise, there'd be no motive for wanting to kill their spies. And the maid, she'd have to be got rid of after catching them in a clinch.
Ooh, yes, you're right. Bed hopping. Ooh, like that. Are we going to include a bedroom?
No, this is a large country house. You wouldn't find a bedroom on the ground floor of a country mansion.
Yes, you're right, and you have thought this out.
Yeah, the characters, the people, go around into these different rooms where the murder could have happened. So we have the ballroom, the conservatory, the kitchen, the hallway, the library, the gun room, and the cellar.
Isn't that a bit obvious? When I go to these country houses as a musician, as their house parties, I don't think I ever came across a gun room. Anyway, don't we have a whole load of implements of murder already?
Yes, look at this. There's a gun, a syringe with poison, an axe. We really need a good bludgeony thing.
What about a coat from the fire? Or a candelabra?
Candelabra. Yes. I like that.
Did I ever tell you I was once
Once the warm-up act for Ivor Novello. Yes, 100 times. Oh, Anthony, what do you like?
He was not a nice person, I remember. I could never quite understand why such a gifted musician could write the most beautiful music and yet have such an unattractive demeanour. I remember he was known for having a roving eye. We were at his house party and he was there with his partner, sat playing the piano after I'd warmed it up for him. Did I ever tell you, Howard?
Once the warm-up act for Ivor Novello. Yes, 100 times.
Anyway, there was some hiatus after he'd kissed some young fellow, and all hell broke loose. And there, I remember, a candelabra had to be removed from some hysterical young chap, while Novello was still playing the piano.
Yes, I like the idea of candelabra. It's on the list. So, we have a cricket bat, a hockey stick, you said fire poker, and now we have a candelabra. What would be a good bludgeoning thing to have in a country house? so that you could bludgeon someone to death.
Lead piping?
Where, in a posh country house weekend, are you going to find a piece of lead piping? Oh, I've discovered my husband's having an affair with the parlourmaid in the library. I turn round, and there, on the floor, is a piece of lead piping. I pick it up, and I give him a jolly good bludgeon to the head, and then rush out of the room. Lead piping? Really?
I don't know. What's the plumber left it lying around?
I don't think Lady Toffee-Nose would tolerate plumber's tools and implements being left lying around, particularly not when she's actually entertaining her posh neighbours like the Duchess of Neasden, especially a piece of lead piping.
Are you going to call one of the characters Lady Toffee-Nose?
No. We want posh people to buy Pluto, so we don't want to upset them, do we? Yes.
Well, did I ever tell you I was warm packed?
Yes, no, actually, no, think about it now, I don't think you ever did. No. Tell me again, you dark pudding. Anyway, getting back to the names, the list of characters. So, we have Miss Scarlet. She's the saucy one, like the body in the library. I like that book. And then there's Mrs. White. She's the frumpy cook. And then we have, Reverend Green, after Agatha's murder in the vicarage. We need a good academic or military sort.
General Custard? Captain Mustard.
Colonel Mustard.
Oh, yes, I like that. Got a good ring to it. Colonel Mustard.
Oh, that was actually a little bit close.
You're right, dear. I think we should go down to the shelves. Here, let me help you with this stuff.
That shark thing has pretty teeth, dear, and he shows them pearly white, just a jackknife as old McKeith, babe, and he keeps it way out of sight. When the shark bites with its teeth, dear, scarlet billows will start to spread. Fancy gloves wears over the teeth. So there's never, ever a trace of red on the sidewalk. Oh, one sunny morning, don't you know, lies a body losing life. Someone sneaking around the corner. Could that someone be Mac the Knife? There's a tugboat pulled down by the river, don't you know? There's some med bags, it's dripping on down. That's some mayonnaise that for the waiting. I'll go get you 10. Old Mackie's back in town. Jenny Tyler, oh, Suki Tawdry, Miss Adelina, and old Lucy Brown. They pull the line there on the right way. Mackie's back in town. Jenny Tyler, oh, Suki Tawdry, Miss Adelina,
the line there on the right lane. And back east, back in town. The line there on the right lane. Now the back east, back in town. Look, old Mackie is back.
People often ask me why I took up writing. Many, I fancy, wouldn't take the answer seriously, although it is a strictly truthful one. You see, I put it all down to the fact that I never had any education. Perhaps I better qualify that by admitting I did eventually go to school in Paris when I was 16 or thereabouts. But apart from being taught a little arithmetic, I had no lessons to speak of. Although I was gloriously idle, children in those days did have to do a lot of things for themselves. I found myself writing, thinking up different stories and then acting out the different parts. And there's nothing quite like boredom for making you write. So by the time I was 16 or 17, I'd written quite a number of short stories and one long, dreary novel. When I was 21, I had the first book of mine ever to be published. I'd finished it, and I sent it off to several publishers. The Mysterious Affair of Styles. Well, nobody wanted it. And eventually, it went to John Lang. About a year later, I'd heard it was accepted. And really, that's how it all began.
I do find one's friends are curious about the way one works. What is your method, they say? The disappointing truth is, I haven't much method. I type my own drafts on a faithful machine that I've owned for years, and I use a dictaphone for writing short stories or for recasting the act of a play, not for the more complicated business of writing a novel. No, the novel comes by thinking through the development of your story and then worrying about it until it comes just right. That may take quite a while. Then, when you've got all of your materials together, as it were, all that remains is to try to find time to write the thing. About 3 months, to me, seems a reasonable time to complete a book. If you can get right down to it. For plays, on the other hand, I think those are best written quickly.
Of course, writing a play is much more fun than writing a book. You haven't got to worry about long descriptions of places or people, or about how to best space out your material. You must write pretty fast to keep in the mood and to keep the talk flowing naturally. I prefer to write a play as a play, that is, rather than to adapt a book. The only reason I did that was because I didn't much care for what happened when other people tried to adapt my books into plays. So, in the end, I had to do it myself.
Agatha wrote about the world she knew and saw, drawing on military gentlemen, lords, ladies, spinsters, widows, and doctors of her family circle of friends and acquaintances. She was a natural observer, and her descriptions of those politics, local rivalries, and family jealousies are often painfully accurate.
I'd keep about half a dozen notebooks on hand, and I'd use them to jot down ideas as they occurred to me, about some drug or poison, or perhaps a cunning little piece of intrigue that I'd read about in the paper.
The idea for the mousetrap came from a famous case that was all over the news.
were neglected and abused after being placed by the council on a farm. One child did die, and there was a feeling that the slightly delinquent boy would grow up full of desire for revenge. There was another case too, I remember, where someone cherished a childish grudge of some kind over the years and then came back to avenge it. That part of the plot is not impossible. When I first saw the performance, Richard Attenborough and his enchanting wife, Sheila Sim, played the two leads, and what a beautiful performance they gave. However, I thought sadly that it had fallen down between two stools. I had put in too many humorous situations, and there was too much laughter in it, and that must take away from the thrill. Yes, I was a little depressed by it, I remember. Philip Saunders, who was the producer, on the other hand, turned his face gently towards me and said,
Don't worry, my pronouncement is, it lasts a little over a year. 14 months I'm going to give it.
72 years later, it's still running in the West End. And not the Rose. Rose. Agatha carried on writing right up to her death in 1976. During the late 60s and 70s, she wrote numerous Miss Marple novels. Her popular Elderly Stilton detective, with Victorian values, may have at times seemed at odds with the changing values of the submissive society. And yet Agatha was very aware of this, and her novels really reflected this. Her books continued to sell in their millions, and the storylines reflected very much the changing times of British society, where it seemed anything goes.
Sure.
when the BBC launched their Miss Marple's TV series with Joan Hickson in the 1980s, and then ITV, their Poirot series, starring David Suchet,
her popularity grew to a whole new generation of adult readers.
She was never really happy with any of the film adaptations of her books until the big-budget Hollywood production of Murder on the Orient Express in 1974, starring Albert Finney as Hercule Poirot and a host of Hollywood A-listers. She attended the Royal Gala premiere in a wheelchair, in the presence of Her Majesty the Queen, and it was to be her very last public appearance.
Agatha has led an extraordinary life, and one that turned out to be a very happy one. The dark days of 1926, the loss of her beloved mother, the infidelity of her first husband Archie, and the very public coverage of her breakdown have left her wounded and lost. However, these days have subsided into a life full of success, happiness and purpose. And this was largely down to her second marriage to Max Mallowan. She became a very private person that loved to write profusely, that loved archaeology, and that revelled in the comfort of her loving family. Time was a great healer.
Time heals everything. Tuesday, Thursday. Time heals everything. April, August. If I'm patient, the break will mend. And one fine morning, the hurt will end. So make the moments fly, autumn, winter. I'll forget you all next year, some year. Though it's hell that I'm going through, some Tuesday, Thursday, April, August, autumn, winter, next year, some year. Time heals everything. Time heals everything, but loving you. So make the moments fly, autumn, winter. I'll forget you next year, some year. Though it's hell that I'm going through, some Tuesday, Thursday, April, August, autumn, winter, next year, some year. Time heals everything. Time heals everything. Loving you. Agatha passed away peacefully the 12th of January 1976 with Max at her side. For her funeral, she had chosen Nimrod by Elgar, the name of the place in Iraq where she and Max had first met and excavated together in their younger years. After her death, a piece of paper was found folded up very tightly in her purse. She carried it around with her for 39 years. It was written by Max, and it said this:
Sometimes, not so very often, two people find real love together, as we do. And there is this, something that lies deep and intangible, not to be broken by the wind. Love is a gift, not acquired by merit, and therefore it is complete and perfect in itself. We know that what we have cannot perish. For me, you will remain beautiful and precious with the passing years.
Agatha Christie left the world an incredible legacy, which to this day captures the hearts and minds of
readers across the globe. Her writing has, for over a century, brought hours of happiness to her loyal readers. And for that, Agatha, we are grateful.
So